Hi, welcome to the Jefferson City Show. I'm your Mayor, Eric Streumph. On this show, we will be talking about Jefferson City issues, and we have two great guests with us today. Lauren Hershey, who is our recycling coordinator for the city of Jefferson, and joining me in the studio right now is Captain Tim Young, the Jefferson City Fire Department. Tim, thanks for being here, guys.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
How are you today?
Great.
Tim, we obviously want to welcome you to today's show. I think you'd have to be living underneath a rock not to notice some of the new flags that are up on High Street downtown. I know that those flags commemorate the Jefferson City's Fire Department 100th anniversary coming up later on this year. Can you tell me how you're involved in that great process?
2 years ago, we put together a committee realizing that in 2012, the career fire department would turn 100 years old. And I want to clarify, the fire department itself actually goes back to 1842, or 170 years ago. After the second Capitol burned in 1911, the city created a career fire department, a paid fire department, and that's what we're looking at celebrating this year. Before
that point in time, Tim, was it a volunteer organization like so many of us are used to, like out in the county and some of the rural areas?
But it was different.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about old Jefferson City. If you understand the history of Missouri, you can follow our history fairly well. Jefferson City was created in 1821 as a state capital. It was found by explorers. They had originally looked at Marion, Missouri, and the folklore has it, that the Indians told them not to put their capital in Marion, but to move it down to Loman's Landing, 18 miles south. And they said storms would get it in Marion. But that move was made. The explorers looked at Loman's Landing, and sure enough, this seemed like a good place for a new community. By 1826, a new capital was opened here, and seat of state government was now in Jefferson City. The community had about 30 families living here then. In 1837, on November 15th of 1837, that Capitol burned. It was a simple flue fire that ignited the Capitol. A number of people helped with removing records and trying to save what they could, but we didn't have an organized fire department. It took about another 4 years, and on January 26th of 1842, a group of gentlemen with 5 resolutions approached the city council and created our volunteer fire department. It was a volunteer bucket brigade. And on that night that was created, 2 fire companies were created. One was east of Madison and one was west of Madison. Pretty low tech, buckets only.
Right.
And that's how it got its start.
I'll be darned. Tim, tell us more about your job currently with our fire department and what you do within the department.
Currently, I'm a captain on Ladder Company 1 downtown. There are divisions within the fire department in the operations side. There's ladder work, engine work, and squad work. Squad work are the rescue squads. We have one on the east side, one on the west side, Squad 2 and Squad 5. We have the 3 engine companies, Engine 4, Engine 3, and Engine 1, they primarily are responsible for getting water on the fire, what they do. The ladder companies have a variety of jobs to do at a fire. With 2 people, or sometimes 3 if we're lucky, we are able to put up ladders, control utilities, ventilate the fire, gain access to the building, perform salvage operations, perform overhaul operations, and assist in any other way we can. And you try to do that all with 2 people. It's rather stressful sometimes.
Tim, how many years have you been on this department?
I've been here 22 years.
As far as the ladders and whatnot, what are some of the major changes you've seen within your equipment over the years?
This latest fleet of equipment that we took delivery of 3 years ago is probably some of the finest equipment that's out there. Strength in aerial ladders have changed greatly over the years. A number of years ago, when Jefferson City got their first aerial ladder in 1940, it was a 75-foot aerial ladder and had strengths of around 750 pounds at the top of it. In other words, that's what kind of a load you can put on it. Today we have aerial ladders that are 100 feet in length with platforms that you can put 1,000 pounds on easily. They have a platform big enough for 4 people. They have the ability to flow massive amounts of water. We can flow 2,000 gallons of water a minute with our 2 ladder trucks. That's quite a bit of water.
You'd mentioned ventilation earlier. As a former firefighter with the county years and years ago, when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I know that we were taught that ventilation of a fire is really sometimes the best way to put it out. Can you explain that concept to our viewers who may not understand that?
Fighting fires has to be a coordinated event. It's not just as simple as standing on a street and throwing water at a building. Most of the time, people that have witnessed these fires have witnessed that the firefighters actually go inside the building and extinguish the fire. In order for them to do that safely, we have to get rid of as much smoke as we possibly can. Smoke is the enemy. Smoke is fuel. Smoke can cause a fire to flash, and that's where you put people in risk. So ventilation is very critical at a fire. We have to do that quickly. And one of the things people see us do quite a bit is the placement of a fan in the doorway that the crews are going into. Simply put, we're creating a cool tunnel of air for them to work in. We go around to where the fire is actually at and open up windows there and allow the fire to break out where we can see it. And they simply go through the house and push the fire out of the building.
You basically fill the structure with cooler air,
cooler, fresh air
to help your firefighters. As we look at the events and activities coming up later on this year, explain to me how, in your position as a captain on a ladder truck, how has your task of planning this event, how's all this come together? Are you a historian at heart, Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say that. Let's back up a few years. In 1996, we had a captain by the name of Donald Thompson that retired. He had worked on our history some through the early 80s and mid 80s into the 90s. And he didn't have the technology that we have today with computers and ways to track information. He had simply a legal pad and some old magazine articles and newspaper articles. He handed all of that to me as he was leaving and asked if we could develop the history. It took a few years, and one of the greatest technical advances that we had were computers put in fire stations 5 years ago. That allowed us to actually create an early timeline and get that on our website. That timeline was increased by merging the information that Captain Thompson had with city council records, logbook entries from our old logbooks, fire report entries, and other stories that we had from newspaper clippings. And as we started merging this timeline together, it started to take shape in the form of a history document. On my days off, I've been doing some research at the library of old newspapers, and I'm up to about 140 pages now of notes about our fire department in the computer that spans 170 years.
How do you go back that far? What's the trick of the trade? You simply just try to read what you can on Sundays, or?
It took a lot of sitting down, reading a lot of microfilm.
Okay.
About 3 hours a day on my days off, and you can ask the staff at the library. They'll be more than happy to tell you how I've been there day in and day out for the last 2.5 years looking at microfilm. But the early microfilm was really hard to read. There were no headlines. It was all paragraph after paragraph.
Oh, okay.
And
a little bit harder to scan then.
Right. By the 1880s, it started coming together then with headlines, and you could find what you were looking for.
As we take this time as a city to look back, Tim, what do you think is the most important part of a history of a fire department as you look back and try to reclaim some of that stuff that's happened in the past?
The people that served this fire department,
right,
and the things that they did to help this fire department grow and become what it is today. I think that is the most important thing to be recognized, the sacrifices and the work that people have made to get it where it is today.
I think that's very true. I know as a volunteer fireman, I know that whenever you have a certain relationship with the men and women that you go into a burning building with, and it's a very, very tight bond. And I know my dad recently retired from Cole County's department, but I know a lot of his best friends to this day are people that he fought fires with for years, and even in other departments also.
The second part to that first question too is the traditions that have carried through the fire department through the decades.
Right.
I have found two traditions that we still do today that were done, one in the 1870s, another one that actually started in 1927. We use a term when we're going to connect to a fire hydrant called lead off. When you get on a radio, tell a company to lead off, it means you need a water line brought to you from a fire hydrant. That term survived from the days of our steam fire pumper. The volunteers, the newspaper called it, they led the steam pumper out, simply pulled it out of the building, and a hose cart led off. The hose cart was leading a hose line to the fire. The other tradition is that of stripping the truck that's first one on the scene at any incident. It goes back to the days when we took delivery of 2 fire engines in 1927, and Chief Robertson wanted to make sure that one of those trucks was always ready to go to another call. So those traditions are still die hard in our fire department.
Let me ask you this, Tim, and not to put you on the spot, but as far as what the fire department does, as far as a proactive approach within the community, as far as safety, what's some of the leading indicators of that?
Our positive approach is service delivery. We go when people call us. We don't ask questions. We go and take care of the problem, whatever it is. We get calls for all kinds of stuff. Predominantly the medical calls. We get a lot of medical calls. Mm-hmm. Probably 65 to 75% of our call load is that. But we deliver those services when they're called, and we don't ask questions. We don't criticize people. We just take care of the problem and move on.
How's the new recruits as far as coming within the department?
Oh,
how
great.
have those classes been? I know before I was mayor, and now that I am mayor, I see that seems like there's always a lot of applicants for our department. I think we should be very proud of that.
We are very proud of that. You know, it says a lot that we have people coming to our community from the communities around us, like Columbia even, where they boast of a very good fire department. Well, we think we have a very good one too. And the thing about it is both fire departments work together and are equally as good.
Tim, before we leave, and I'm going to have you back here in another couple months because this is a huge event for our local fire department. But obviously you brought kind of a show and tell item here. Can you tell the viewers at home exactly what we're looking at?
A couple of weeks ago, we put up the flags on High Street for our centennial event. And as part of that, Lorraine Atkins and Jane Oliver from the Cole County Historical Society presented us with a piece that they had in the Historical Society. They didn't really know where it came from. They don't know where its origins are. And I've done a little digging and found some information on it. This is a fire trumpet, a fire speaking trumpet. It was used by the chief officers in the volunteer days, the days of the horse-drawn fire engines. I found a newspaper article from 1879, August of 1879, where one of our volunteer firemen, a guy by the name of Charlie Palmer, received a silver speaking trumpet from the Bridgeport, Connecticut Fire Department at a meeting here, at a regular fire meeting. It was presented by Mr. Preston from the Bridgeport, Connecticut Fire Department. I took this down to a local antique store yesterday, in fact, and he found an emblem on there that indicates that this was made somewhere just before the beginning of the Civil War. The company that made this was in business prior to the Civil War, but went out of business after the Civil War, just after the Civil War. So that would put it anywhere between 1855 and 1868, roughly.
Wow.
When this was presented to Charlie Palmer, it had 21 years of service behind it. So if you do the math, it was made in 1858. That's consistent with the story we got from a local antique dealer. This may very well be that same speaking trumpet that was given to Charlie Palmer. Charlie Palmer brought telephone service to Jefferson City in 1880.
Wow.
He worked for Western Union Company.
Tim, let me ask you this as a quick recap. We're getting ready to go to break here. Tell us again, what are the main events for the Centennial? What month?
October of this year. October 6th will be a parade, Saturday, October 6th, here in Jefferson City. We're inviting fire departments from all over the state of Missouri to bring a piece of equipment and participate in the parade with us. On Sunday, October 7th, which is the date of signing of City Ordinance 1089 that created the paid fire department, we're going to do a demonstration at our training center on Hyde Park to represent to the public the future of what this fire department will do for them. Great.
If people have more questions or they want to learn more about the department, do you have a website, and what is that?
Yeah, they can contact me at tyoung@jeffcitymo.org.
Okay.
It's the best place to get hold of me.
Tim, thanks for being here. I look forward to having you here, obviously, in the future, and I would really like to get you back for that Centennial. Thanks for all the great work you do, and say hi to all the men and women of the department. You guys do a great job serving our city. We'll be right back with Lauren Hershey, who is our recycling coordinator for the city of Jefferson. We'll be right back. You're watching the Jefferson City Show.
Welcome home, man.
We want to see our children succeed. But setting easy goals for our kids creates the toughest obstacle they'll ever face. Because succeeding in the real world isn't easy. Help the effort to raise standards in America's public schools. Call 1-800-96-PROMISE.
Hi, welcome back to the Jefferson City Show. I'm your host, Mayor Eric Streumph. And joining me now in the studio is Miss Lauren Hershey. Lauren is the recycling coordinator for the city of Jefferson. Lauren, welcome today.
Thanks for having me.
So I know that, I can always tell when someone has true passion about something that they're doing. And as you come up before the council meetings, and I've seen you talk to other groups, why such a passion in recycling?
It's just, once I started doing it, the more I learned about it, the more I learned how important it was and how you can make an impact on the entire world just by doing one little thing yourself. And then once you start telling other people about it, then you're helping them to make an impact. And I don't think that there's very many jobs out there where every day you make a little impact on the world and you can save the world a little bit every day and help somebody else do something like that every day.
I know before you came to the city full-time, you served as an intern for the city.
Yes.
And what did you do there?
I was a human resources intern.
Okay.
And with that, I would help them do interviews, and they taught me applications, and I got to enter the trash single stream when they were doing that, and it was really fun. I learned a lot.
Whose department were you on at that point in time? Who did you work under at that time?
I worked with Sarah Trittler.
Okay. As far as becoming our recycling coordinator, what drove you to do that?
Well, it was actually, I was doing a class project in Warrensburg, where I went to college at the University of Central Missouri, and Ripple Glass was presenting to our class, and they wanted our help in getting glass recycling out there, so they wanted us all to pick a city and see what they were doing with their glass, and I picked Jefferson City since I had worked for the city and I was comfortable there, and this was my hometown. So I came back to Jeff City and I interviewed Charlie Lansford when he was still here, and
you made it through that process. Yeah. Just give Charlie a little bad time.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. As far as a recycling coordinator, explain exactly what you do.
I help with getting projects going and coordinating like one-day events for electronic waste. I help manage and work and run our Household Hazardous Waste Center, which is a joint county with the project, or a joint project with the county. It is free to all Cole County residents. We'll take oil-based paints, used motor oil, pretty much anything out there.
Is there a particular time that you do that? Is there a certain weekend? It's not open all the time, correct?
It's not open
I mean,
year-round.
You have to kind of save them up at the house and then do them later. How often are we doing those now?
We're open from March to October on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays.
Oh, okay. So plenty of time for people to do that.
Yes.
I'm assuming there's not a service out there that will come out to your house and pick up those hazardous waste. Are there in other cities? Is it a service that over time we could look at doing, or?
Other cities do drop-offs also.
Okay.
It's easier to have the household hazardous waste all in one place.
So out of all the different types of recycling efforts that we're doing currently in Jefferson City, what do you think are the most popular right now?
The most popular right now is electronic waste.
Okay.
And we do have a business here in town that is open to residents, and they'll take almost anything that plugs into the wall or runs off a battery.
And who's that?
Midwest Recycling Center.
Okay.
And then New World Recycling has also started taking some electronics, and so has Federal Recycling, which I just found that out yesterday.
Is there any type of electronic device that's not recyclable? I mean, like a cell phone, for instance. I mean,
That's
if I
recyclable.
have an old cell phone, and someone can obviously get some use out of that down the road. What about the big tube-type TVs?
Those are recyclable also.
Okay.
They do
And
have to
I'm
be.
assuming it's glass and plastic and everything within them.
Well, with the glass has lead and mercury in it
Okay.
in the old ones, so they do have to be recycled a special way so that lead and mercury doesn't contaminate anything else or get into the water stream.
The business you mentioned earlier, as far as the e-waste, the e-recycling, what type of impact are they having on the community? What are we not seeing within our landfill now because of that?
We're not seeing TVs, computer monitors, appliances. We're not seeing printers, fax machines. All those things go to landfill. They've taken a big relief off of everybody being able to take all these things.
I know that one thing that was obviously a huge thing within our community was single stream recycling. And I got to admit, when we first started at the Struemph household, it was this much trash and this much recycling, but now it's the complete opposite. I mean, the recycling bin, and I've talked to several friends and colleagues about this. What have you seen? How does that affect our city right now, the single stream recycling?
The single stream recycling has become so popular with a lot of people. Almost everything you touch nowadays, you can recycle. Everybody really, it's convenient, it's easy, and the biggest impact that we can have on everybody is education. We just need to educate them on what they can put in their single stream bin, what they can't put in there, and then we need to offer them services for things that can't go in the bin. We need to tell them where they can go.
Let me ask you this, obviously being in business here in Jefferson City, and I know we create a lot of paper waste. Over time, will our waste provider give us the opportunity, you think, on a business perspective, to have a single stream recycling for business?
I think that over time that they will. It's going to be a demand thing. The consumer is going to come to a point where they're going to demand it, and somebody's going to have to provide it for them. And so I have no doubts that that'll be something that happens in the future.
In the big picture, how popular do you think our household hazardous waste programs at Hyde Park, how popular have those become over the years?
Last year was actually our very first year. We just opened it last year as a free service to residents. Before it was being done, people were charged per pound, but we were able to get a grant through the Mid-Missouri Solid Waste Management District, so they helped pay for the setup. We provide workers to work at it and collect things, and then they reimburse us for our processing.
If I lived just outside the city limits, could I still bring my stuff inside?
If you're in Cole County, we'll take it. We'll
good.
service all of Cole
Someone
County.
asked me that not too long ago.
Absolutely.
Where is a good place for the public to find out more information about the different types of recyclable goods, and especially the hazardous type goods that they may have at their house that obviously, they sit down on a corner shelf in a basement for years and years and years. where's a good place to learn more about what it is and where they can go to dispose of that?
jeffcitymo.org. There is a recycling page on there, and then we also have a Facebook page called Jefferson City Recycles.
Okay. How is the glass recycling project coming along? I know obviously that's something that you're very passionate about. Tell us more about that.
The glass recycling is going very well. We've had a few issues with some TVs ending up in the bins, but it's nothing that a little education and a little encouragement can't fix. The residents have done an outstanding job of keeping the glass bins clean and recycling glass bins. We have to get the one on Dix Road emptied once every 2 weeks, and it holds 6 tons of glass.
Wow, 6 tons, that's a lot. Where are all the drop-off parts, or bins, where are they located at around Jefferson City?
There's one at the Save-A-Lot parking lot. There's one on Dix Road behind Jefferson Bank on that little curve. There's one at Federal Recycling in their front lot, and then they also have one in their back lot also.
What happens to the glass after it's recycled? Where does it go, and how do we see it back as consumers?
We see it back as insulation, or even any kind of glass bottles. We collect all the glass for Ripple, and then they'll send a truck down to get it, and they'll take it back to Kansas City. They'll crush it up into cullet, which is like sand almost, and then they sell it to Owens Corning for insulation. And then also they've offered that if any time we need insulation, or if Habitat for Humanity here in our community needs insulation, that they'd be happy to donate back.
That'd be great. I mean, obviously I know we talked earlier about you being a intern within the city's program. Would you encourage other students to do that over time?
Absolutely. Being an intern definitely gives you not only a foot in the door, but it gives you a sense of what to expect when you do enter the real world, as we like to call it in college.
It's still the real world out here too.
Yeah, and it just gets you comfortable and gets you ready to know what to expect.
Great. Keep up a great job. I mean, you hear a lot of great things around the community and from the City Council. Look forward to other projects you might bring before us. Obviously, this is kind of cutting edge technology for a city our size and really of our age. But I think you do a great job, and welcome again to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hope you come back soon. You've been watching the Jefferson City Show. As the name says, this is your show, Jefferson City. I'm your Mayor, Eric Streumph. If you have ideas about how to improve our show or people that you'd like to see on our show, by all means, please let us know. You can go to our City Hall website. This is the Jefferson City Show. I'm Eric Streumph, and I'm honored to be your mayor. Until next time, you're watching JCTV.